All right. Thank you everyone for watching the video. Okay. Oh, hold on. Okay, we are now recording the webinar and we will stream it live to our Facebook Kuala Lumpur Engineering Science Fair. So we'll start at 2:30. So it's 2:30, huh? Okay, I'll start. Okay, all right. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. I am Marianne from Utah. So for our fourth webinar today, we will have two students from SMJK Heng E Penang. So the title of our webinar today is a webinar on science, communication and innovation 2020. The title that they're going to present will be low-cost sugarcane bagasse ways to improve soil moisture retention in agriculture. Okay, before we proceed, if you have any question, please leave your question in the chat box. We are streaming this webinar live to our e-KLESF Facebook. So please help us to like and share this video. I would like to introduce to you our speakers today. It will be Yang Song Ling and also Yang Zulin. They are the finalists of Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair 2020 and also second runner-up of Pertandingan Inovasi Sains Teknologi dan Kejuruteraan PISTEC 2019. Now, without further ado, we will now turn over this session to our speaker.
Okay, thank you, Miss Anne. So now I'm going to share my screen first. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Miss Anne. So welcome everyone to our webinar. I'm Yang Song Ling.
And I'm Yang Shiling.
And we are from SMJK Heng Yi, Penang. So today, we are very excited to share with you all our project, which is the low-cost sugarcane bagasse waste to improve the soil moisture retention in agriculture. Now, this is the overview of our presentation. And first of all, we are going to share about the introduction, which is the background of our study, the problem statement, which is the problem that we want to solve by using our project, and the aim of our study. Next, we are going to talk about the methodology, which is the methods that we use to carry out our 3 experiments. And next, we are going to talk about the results and analysis, which is the results of our 3 experiments and how we analyze them. Next is our conclusion, and followed by our future direction, which is what we plan to research in the future. And finally, we are going to talk about the significance of our study, which is the impact and the importance of our study. So now, without further ado, let's start our introduction of our project. So first of all, the background of our study. Well, as we all know, our world population is expanding, and this growing population causes a growing demand for water. But at the same time, agriculture consumes about 70% of global water use. But do you know that for every irrigation, about 60% of water is just wasted through runoff, drainage, and evapotranspiration? So it means that every time we water the crops, a large amount of water is just wasted. So the problem we face now is a high percentage of irrigation water is wasted due to the inefficiency of the soil to retain soil moisture. Hence, how can we solve this problem? Well, in our project, we propose to use sugarcane bagasse to treat soil in order to improve the soil moisture retention of the soil. Now, you may ask, what is sugarcane bagasse and why did we choose sugarcane bagasse? Well, sugarcane bagasse is actually this fibrous residue that remains after sugarcane stalks are crushed to extract their juice. Well, why do we choose sugarcane bagasse? This is because sugarcane bagasse has these vessel-like structures that can hold and absorb a large amount of water. So as you can see in this picture, the sugarcane bagasse contains this vessel structure that can hold a large amount of water. Hence, the aim of our study is to utilize sugarcane bagasse to improve the ability of soil to retain soil moisture in order to reduce the frequency of irrigation for agriculture. And we have 3 objectives in our studies. First, we want to know how much water can dry sugarcane bagasse absorb. Next, we want to know how well can different percentage of sugarcane bagasse soil mixture maintain the soil moisture under normal and extreme conditions. Finally, we want to know how long will the water retention characteristic of sugarcane bagasse last as it starts to decompose. Now, moving on to our methodology, which is the methods we use to carry out our 3 experiments. For the first experiment, we want to know how much water can dry sugarcane bagasse absorb. So, we dry the sugarcane bagasse, we weight the dry sugarcane bagasse, and we soak them in water. Then, we weight the wet sugarcane bagasse again, and finally, we calculate the percentage of water absorbed by the sugarcane bagasse. Now, moving on to the second experiment, we want to know how well can different percentage of sugarcane bagasse maintain the soil moisture under 2 conditions, which is the normal condition and extreme condition. So, we prepare the soil sample for 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10% of sugarcane bagasse, meaning that we prepare 6 pots of soil and bagasse soil mixture, and we prepare 2 sets of this. So meaning that in total, we have 12 sets of soil and bagasse mixture. Next, we measure the soil moisture of the bagasse soil mixture, and we water the soil until 60% of soil moisture. Next, we put 1 set under the sun and another set in the oven to simulate extreme conditions. Next, every day, we measure the soil moisture in both conditions at 9 a.m. and after 1 week, we repeat steps 2 to 4 for another 10 weeks, meaning that for every week, we would water the soil and every day, we will measure the soil moisture. So finally, we plot the graph of average soil moisture for different composition of bagasse soil mixture under both conditions, which we will show in our results analysis part. Now, for our third experiment. For our third experiment, we want to know how long will it take for sugarcane bagasse to decompose in the soil. And so it is the continuation of the second experiment. So we continue the second experiment, continue to water the soil every week and measure the soil moisture every day for 24 weeks, which is around 6 months. And finally, we plot the graph of average soil moisture for different compositions of bagasse soil mixture every 4 weeks until 24 weeks, which is about 6 months.
Next, we will be moving on to the results and analysis part. As we have 3 experiments, we will find out how much water dry sugarcane bagasse can absorb and how the compositions of bagasse soil mixture and the temperature affect the ability to retain soil moisture. And lastly, we'll find out how long sugarcane bagasse can last as it starts to decompose. For the first experiment, here we can see this graph, which is the mass of water absorbed against the mass of dry sugarcane bagasse? Well, it's obvious to the eye that the more the bagasse we put, the more the water it will absorb. So we can confirm it by calculating the R² value, which is 0.9. This tells us that there is a very strong positive linear correlation between the mass of water absorbed and the mass of dry sugarcane bagasse. Now, to find out the percentage of water absorbed, we need to know the gradient of the graph, which is obtained by using least square analysis. The gradient you obtain is 2.78. This value tells us that for a unit mass of sugarcane bagasse, 278% of water is absorbed. In other words, sugarcane bagasse can absorb almost 3 times its mass, which is a decent amount of water. For the second experiment, here we can see 2 graphs, which is the graphs of different compositions of bagasse soil mixtures and the soil moisture retained for 24 weeks. Here, these different lines indicate the different composition of bagasse in soil. The brown line indicates the control sample, which is the mixture that has no bagasse at all. We can see that under normal and extreme conditions, the soil moisture retained by the control sample dropped rapidly. But with sugarcane bagasse, it managed to maintain the soil moisture at around 40% to 60%. And we can also see that the higher the percentage of bagasse in soil, the more the water is retained. Now, for this experiment, we used a tool called two-way ANOVA. This is a tool to study whether 2 independent variables will affect the result of an experiment or not. In other words, we want to know if 2 factors, which is the composition factor and also the temperature factor, will they affect the soil moisture retained? Let us look at it individually. For the composition factor, we found out that there is a significant difference between the mean rates of soil moisture loss. What does this mean? This tells us that for different compositions, the soil moisture retained has a significant difference, meaning that different composition of sugarcane bagasse in soil affected the soil moisture retained. However, for the temperature factor, there was no significant difference between the mean rates of soil moisture loss. This tells us that under normal and extreme conditions, the soil moisture retained did not differ significantly. This tells us that sugarcane bagasse has managed to retain the soil moisture even under extreme temperatures. Finally, for our third experiment, because we want to know that how long will it take for sugarcane bagasse to decompose. So for the first 12 weeks, what we can see from the graph is that there was no obvious changes in the trends of the soil moisture retained. However, when we get to the 13th week, which is about 3 months, the trend of 2% bagasse soil mixture has dropped and became similar to the control sample. As we have mentioned earlier, The control sample means that there is no sugarcane bagasse at all in the soil. So when the trend of 2% bagasse soil mixture became similar to the control sample, it means that the sugarcane bagasse has decomposed because its water retention characteristics has declined. And we can see for the following weeks, the trends of 4% bagasse soil mixture also became similar to the control sample. We also used two-way ANOVA for this experiment, and we can see that for the second time span, which is week 13 to 24, around the third month, sugarcane bagasse has gradually decomposed. Finally, moving on to our conclusion. We know that sugarcane bagasse can absorb about 278% of water, which is 3 times its mass. For the second experiment, we also know that the presence of sugarcane bagasse has significantly improved the soil moisture retention. And it has also effectively retained soil moisture under extreme conditions. Finally, sugarcane bagasse starts to decompose after 12 weeks, which is 3 months. Hence, we can conclude that sugarcane bagasse can be used to improve soil moisture retention for agriculture. Next, we would like to share our future direction, which is what we want to do in our future research. We would like to know that how the depth of the bagasse in soil mixture will affect the soil moisture retained. We also want to find out what size of the bagasse will achieve the optimum results we want, which is what size can retain the most water possible. We'll also like to include plant crops. As we know, different crops have different evapotranspiration rates. So how much sugarcane bagasse we can put for different types of crops. And lastly, we'd also like to know how the types of the soil will affect the soil moisture retained. Lastly, the implication and significance of our study. From our study, it is shown that by treating soil with sugarcane bagasse, soil moisture retention has improved. So, we can reduce the frequency of irrigation in agriculture. And as sugarcane bagasse is an abundant waste in the sugar manufacturing industry, we can obtain this source very easily and at a low cost. Next, sugarcane bagasse enriched soil can also ensure an abundant crop yield, as the bagasse make the plants grow well as it decompose and become humus. Lastly, by having enough water for all sectors in our society and enough food, we can be a step closer to a sustainable society. That's all for our presentation today. Thank you so much for your attendance and attention, and we'll pass the time back to Ms. Anne.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Esther, for the sharing. Okay, now we would like to open the session for Q&A session. If there's any of the participants who would like to ask questions to Hannah and Esther, you can post your question on our chat box. All right, in the Facebook, we have a comment here for both of you. One is from Cikgu Azliano. She said, congratulations, I think, for your presentation and your achievement. And from Lim Hang, I love it, he said. I think your presentation. Okay, let's see in the chat box if there's any comments. So far, there's no comment yet. We just wait for the question from our participant. Okay, for meantime, can I ask you the question? Okay, while you're doing your experiment, what are the constraints that both of you encounter while doing this experiment? Is there any problem that you're facing and so on?
Yes, of course, there is some problem when we are doing our experiment. One of the biggest difficulties that we face is actually the time, because actually our experiment takes a long time. As for our third experiment, it takes around 6 months. So we need to plan very well, because if we done something wrong, we cannot repeat it again. So this is a big challenge that we face. We need to learn to plan well and then do every step correct.
I see. Okay, so for future, what are the next steps that you will take to improve the research, the experiment process? Do you have anything in plan already?
Yeah, we would like to include the factors of the size of sugarcane bagasse. So we would either grind it into powder, we would maybe chop it into random pieces, or we would also like put the whole complete bagasse in the soil to find out which size is optimal for the maximum water retention. Yeah.
So far, how is the support that you get from your friends or school teacher on your project?
Yeah, they really support us very much. From the facilities in our school, we have to use the science lab. We can use the field and all that. And our teacher also support us very much and guided us. And we can ask any question we want if we face any problem. So yeah, all the teachers in our school really support us very much.
Especially the lab assistants, because we needed to use the oven. So they were really nice to help us.
Good to know that you have all the support from your school teachers, your friends, and also the lab assistant on your experiment. That is something good for you. Okay. Okay, we don't have any questions so far in the chat box, but in our Facebook, there are few congratulation remarks from our viewer, from Zehui. She said, congratulations and well done for both of you. And from Ten Siu Kim, he commented that this is interesting and love it so much. Bravo to both of you. So if there's no other further question from our participant, I just would like to inform you that we have prepared a feedback form for the participant to fill up. So kindly assist us to fill up the form. Your response are very important for us to improve, for us to access and improve our effectiveness of this webinar. Okay, so we will post the same feedback form in our Facebook as well. All right. If there's any other question in future, the participant can post it in the video in our Facebook. Then we will share it to both of you, or maybe both of you could view it in our Facebook under your video and reply to their comment accordingly. Right?
Yes, no problem.
Okay. All right. So if there's no further question, I would like to, before we conclude the session, I just would like to inform the participant that after this at 3:30, we will have a last webinar for today. It will be also from your schoolmate, SMJK Heng E Penang by O Bun Yi. She will be presenting her project, which is psyllium husk as a plant-based stabilizer to produce high fiber, low synersis yogurt. So for those who are here, don't forget to join her webinar at 3:30, the same link, and we will be also streaming the same webinar in our Facebook. Okay, before we end this session, I would like to call all the participants to switch on your camera for us to take screenshot as some memories for Esther and Hannah. Can you turn on your camera, everyone? Okay, so some of them are shy, I think. We're waiting for our participant to join our screenshot setting. Okay, we will try to take a few shots, yeah? So we'll start with the first one. Ready, smile, 1, 2, 3. Okay, give me one moment. Okay, another one. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, last one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Right. Thank you, everyone. All right. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Esther, for your time
Thank you.
and for your sharing. We hope that we can collaborate again in future.
Yes,
Yeah,
no
it will
problem.
be our pleasure.
Thank you so much. Please take care and be safe, okay?
Same to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.